Eli Pariser, the author of The Filter Bubble and a career progressive activist. Eli, what is your feeling about the culture of free on the internet? Last week I was in Paris at the EG8, and you had guys like Larry Lessig talking about the demise of the old entertainment economy, still portraying the old entertainment companies as the enemies, suggesting that copyright reform was essential if we're going to have justice in the 21st century. But what about these arguments now increasingly coming out of the progressive community that creative people in particular have a right to the economic fruits of their labor?
Well, I think, I tend to, personally, I tend to be sympathetic to a lot of what Lessig is concerned about, partly because it's an infrastructure that allows a great deal of control over everything that happens on the internet. As soon as you have digital rights management embedded in everything that's happening, you have a mechanism for watching every little packet move every which way. That doesn't necessarily make it easy to do the kinds of things, to have the sort of upstart entities that have actually been the revolutionary entities.
Well, there's upstart entities at companies like Facebook and Google who you've written a book against.
They're now the incumbents, and what you want is to make sure that they're not locking out the new insurgents,
who will turn out to be just exaggerated versions of the old ones.
Well, ideally you have some building there, and you have some competitive tension. That's part of, I think, what we want is not to have a landscape just like the old media is, that's dominated by 6 major companies. Instead, you really want to make sure that there is a lot of choice in the marketplace, that that there aren't just a few big access points deciding which information moves where. I think that is where we're rapidly moving, and it's partly on this sort of Google and Facebook data and personalization front, and partly on the sort of content and bandwidth front with net neutrality.
But what about the issue of being paid for one's labor and the struggle of the creative community increasingly to earn a living on the internet? What's your feeling on that?
Well, I think clearly there needs to be a way to recognize the value in things people create. I think we don't yet know what the new equilibrium is. I think what's complicated is that there's so many different things, when you look at the production of news, for example, there's this immense redundancy. You have 1,000 articles about the same event. They're not really adding a lot of value, and you don't want to overvalue any one of those necessarily. On the other hand, you definitely want to say, if you go off and do the investigative report on Halliburton, there's some kind of return to that, or some way of making sure that that's incentivized. So I don't know the answer to that.
But what is the connection between revitalizing the economics of online journalism in particular and the problem of the filter bubble?
Well, I actually think they're dealing with somewhat separate parts of the problem. I'm actually not especially concerned about the problem of funding investigative journalism or things like that. If I had to guess, I would say that 5 years from now, there will be more kind of critical or illuminating data available about big corporations and big governments than there was now and than there was 5 years ago. The question is whether it actually gets distributed to people in a way that they do something about it. And so, to me, if ProPublica or other new kind of journalistic entities are doing these great reports, but they're sitting somewhere on a web service while people are watching a lot of cat videos, that doesn't accomplish the problem of having good information flows in a democratic society. You need to have it actually reach people. And the question is, how is it going to reach people if these filters aren't optimized to let it get to people?